Man, I'm Maranatha of Detroit, Michigan, where everything depends upon a proper interpretation of Genesis 3:15, where the Most High God said to the serpent, I will put enmity between you and the woman. Her seed's heel will bruise your seed's skull. Many people have a problem with this verse, this concept of trying to explain it. I got a lot of things here that I'm going to try to cover. Don't have anything written down, going off the cuff. So here we go. A person asked a question regarding begotten. How is Yeshua the only begotten Son? You will find this. This is one thing my father has taught me, is that being smart isn't always being able to answer every question, but at least to know where to go and get the information to answer the question. So here it is. We have to understand that the word, God's language, has been convoluted. It's Babel. And it is not exclusively our fault. It's how God wanted it. When we study to show ourselves approved and rightly dividing the word, the languages, we have to dig and find out definitions of words. We have to find out the etymology of words. We have to find out the origin of words. And when we find out the origin of words, hopefully it will take us back to the Hebrew. The Bible has been translated from Hebrew to Aramaic to Greek to Latin to English. I mean, it's different levels of different layers of translations. And it's difficult to explain some Hebraic concepts in different or foreign languages of the Hebrew. Any language other than Hebrew is a foreign language. So like when Paul was knocked off the donkey and he heard this Hebrew tongue, this is God's original language. Zephaniah, don't know the verse, but it says God's people won't be restored until the language is restored. See, once we figure out the true language and what it means, then we will understand what God is saying. Until then, teachers, messengers explain the concepts of God through parables. When you understand the parable, you can get an overstanding. We're not trying to understand anymore. We're trying to overstand. So understanding that the Hebrew language is an agro-biolinguistic language, meaning agriculture and men are synonymous. When it says only begotten, this is a Greek word that is trying to translate a Hebraic thought. So, was the Messiah God's only begotten son? No. He has many sons. But when the writer was, I think this is in John, when the writer wrote only begotten, what he was trying, or she was trying to express by saying only begotten, and you have to Google up the word begotten or only begotten, it will say something to the effect that a person is designated to a certain task, a specific task, to fulfill a certain purpose. Everything has a purpose. Name something that doesn't have a purpose, and I'll help you out. The word nothing says that this thing does not have a purpose. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. So, and a vocation. So when it says that Jesus was, or that Yeshua was God's only begotten son, this particular offspring of David, because Adam was a son of God, not the beast of the field, not the Gentiles, not the other human beings. The only people who were sons of God were the descendants of Adam, or who had the capability of living the vocation of being a son of God, were the children of Adam. So, Yeshua was the only son of Adam who was designated to fulfill the proto-evangelium. Genesis 3:15. David could not have fulfilled it. Jeremiah could not have fulfilled it. Moses didn't fulfill it. Abraham didn't fulfill it. Solomon didn't fulfill it. Isaiah, Ezekiel, John, Matthew, Peter, Paul. No other son of God was able to fulfill Genesis 3:15 other than the Messiah. You are a son of God. Some of you, I mean, I don't know, but if you're a Gentile, then you are able to be adopted into the family if you recognize the Ten Commandments, you recognize truth, and you recognize that God has a certain people that he is taking care of. Not the Jews that say they're Jews. See, ish means kind of. Blackish doesn't mean that it's really black, but it's pretty close to it. Childish, you're not a child, but you're showing me fruits that are pretty close to it. Jewish, you're not a Jew, but when I look at the book and read the book, I understand that if there were any people that looks like they're walking the walk, it's you, the Jewish people. But they are not of the bloodline. They are from, what's his name? Japheth. Yes. The Azanaki, they are from Japheth. The promise came through Shem. So, are they related? Yes. But if God chooses the second child versus the first child, do you have a problem with that? So when it says that Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah, was his only begotten son, he was the one who could fulfill the proto-evangelium. And you know this because this was a sign and this was a prophecy. Isaiah 55:11. We know that the word of God cannot come back void. Everything God says, it has to happen. So the seed of the woman was a historical, fleshly, corporeal person, a person you can touch. He was a person. And the seed of the serpent was a person too. David cuts off Goliath's head, takes it to Jerusalem, buried it. You know the rest. When the Messiah was crucified, his foot was over the literal corporeal skull of the serpent seed. The serpent seed gave up his skull to fulfill the proto-evangelium. Get it? So, being the only begotten, it really means that this person of the lineage of Adam was able to fulfill this vocation. Okay? You're created to fulfill a specific task. Your purpose is to fulfill a specific task. So, I hope that answers the question of, I think the person's name was Hope111. The next issue was, and they also brought up the thing of Acts. Acts, it was regarding I think when Paul and Barnabas were called Zeus, and they used a name that I had to look up. But this name, it was Artemis something, but this name was like a god. Now, when you understand this, Genesis 3:15, then you understand that when God created Adam and he was a son of God, it let me put it to you like this. The other day I met a guy, an Israelite, and I think I said it in another video. We were talking and I was expressing to him Genesis 3:15. And when I expressed to him that the serpent was a Gentile woman, he heard me and he understood it, but he was like, Isaiah, show me another precept. You got to give me another uh, clue or nugget in the scriptures, not just going on what you're saying, but you have to prove it. So what I failed to do, and I hope he's listening now because I invited him to the channel. Here's another precept. Genesis 6, when it says that the sons of God went into the daughters of man. When the lineage of Adam disobeyed the father and they went into Gentile women, they produced the Nephilim. That's what it means. Genesis 6 is not talking about, the Hellenized version of angels, coming from heaven with wings and halos and, horns or whatever and having sex. No. The genealogy of Adam, who were sons of God. You remember the issue of, what did I use? The Netanya, where it's the Russia and the Zodic. A Russia, you got to, Russia A is a person who does not believe in God and is rich. Russia B is a person who doesn't believe in God and is poor. A Zodic A is a person who reads Torah devoutly and is rich. Zodic B is a person who reads Torah and is poor. So imagine you have a box and it's divided up into 4 squares. Left-hand side, Russia A, Russia B. Right-hand side, Zodic A, Zodic B. When you look at a person who's driving in a really nice car, how do you determine if they are a Russia A or a Zodic A? If you're driving down the street and you see a person who's poor and just looks like they're on hard times, how do you determine just by looking on the outside that they are a Russia B or a Zodic B? The moral of this example is to state that you should not judge people. Judge lest ye be judged. You should not going around judging people. Just keep your mind on yourself. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. So when you understand this context of Zodic A and Russia A, or Zodics and Russias, it should give you an understanding of Genesis 6, that there were some sons of God who disobeyed God, and they found that the Gentile women were attractive. And when they procreated, had sex with them, they created giants. Now, were the giants literally tall people? Maybe. But the thing is, it was 2 bloodlines who were not supposed to cohabitate with one another. This is why the Bible is saying God told the Israelites, don't have sex with the Canaanites, Jebusites, Hittites, all of these foreign nations. Don't deal with the Gentile women. Samson. It's always an issue of bloodlines. I mean, they know. There are certain groups out here who really know. They know that one drop of blood of an Israelite, you're an Israelite. They may give you another name, and that's one of the curses, being a byword. But if you have one drop of blood, of Israelite blood in you, then you are contaminated. So there are some Gentiles who do not want to cohabitate with this certain bloodline. So when you get to Genesis 6, the sons of God were the descendants of Adam, who, instead of keeping true to Torah, they ended up becoming Russias. They left their estate. They were supposed to be kings, sons of God, but they rather have the women, the flesh. That's what they wanted to do. So they produced the giants, the Nephilim, the Nephish, people of the flesh and not of the spirit. So that is the precept, another precept that supports Adam having sex with a Gentile woman who was a cougar. Oops, I'm sorry, a serpent. Agro-biolinguistic language. Women, men, a man. Oh, he's just a dog. Oh, girl, he's a dog. Or girl, he's a stud. Or men have certain words for women, you know. What do you call it? A tool that turns over the dirt. Agro-biolinguistic language. So unfortunately, Adam had sex with a Gentile woman. That was the serpent seed, a historical bloodline that God said no to. And once Jesus' foot was over the skull, then you would know that that was the person that you should follow. All right, so getting back to Acts, where it talks about Barnabas and Paul were gods. See, the other people, they know us as gods. And just like the curse of giving us names, giving us spooks, spics, monkeys, they give us all these different names. And some names are kind of true. I mean, pretty close to it. So if they call us Zeus, all they're trying to say is that we are gods. Not in a Hellenized sense, not in a Roman Catholic sense. We are the children of Adam. Gods. That's it. There's nothing special about us other than God has favor for us. But we do not want to adhere to our Creator, and we are suffering the curses of Deuteronomy 28. All right, so I dealt with only begotten. I dealt with Acts, why they call them gods, and it's because we are gods. But if you have sex with a Gentile woman, you might be producing a Nephilim. That's what happened back then. Don't want to get into it right now as far as the future, and if you are married to a Gentile woman, or a woman, Israelite woman married to a Gentile man. Deal with that in the future. Okay, so now what's the next one? What's the next one? All right, let me jump on Trinity. The Trinity is a concept that says that God is, in a sense, three manifestations of himself, and they are all co-equal. That is the doctrine of the Trinity. The Trinity is saying that there are three manifestations, three separate persons, but they're all co-equal. Now, the Trinity is a lie. The Trinity was not developed until 321 years after Jesus' death, Yeshua's death. The Messiah's foot was over the serpent seed skull. Just 1 second. All right, so when you understand that this is a bad doctrine, you cannot believe this doctrine. You have to get this out of your psyche to be a son of God. a child of God. Because it says, "Hear, O Israel, our Lord, our God is one." One meaning plural, one meaning us, one meaning masculine, feminine, because God created man in his image, male and female. Okay? It is the fifth commandment. It is in the law. Israelites have a mother and father. If you have a problem with looking at if you have a problem with hearing God to be feminine, then understand it this way to help you better understand. God the Father has wisdom, and his wisdom that goes out of his mouth, his intellect, his logic is precise because he's God. He says, "Let there be light," and guess what? There's light. He said, "Let there be trees," and there's trees. There's no other being that is that smart that we know of.